All right, so I wasn't going to talk about this Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis because it seems like I'm always taking an opportunity to on Jake Paul. And that's not what I'm trying to do, okay? And yes, when he was rumored to be fighting Anthony Joshua, the former heavyweight champion, I thought bullshit. I thought there's no way on earth that he's going to fight Anthony Joshua because he's massive, he's gigantic, he's a former heavyweight world champion that went out there and embarrassed Francis Ngannou by dropping him with every single right hand that he threw. Absolutely flatlined the guy. But Jake Paul's out there talking about taking him on, David versus Goliath and all this type of stuff. And I thought, you know what? Fair play. If he does go out and fight Anthony Joshua, which I wouldn't advise because that would be extremely dangerous, then fair play if he was to do that. And all the critics and people like myself would have to shut the hell up because I always said he's looking for fights that were manufactured, looking for fights that were predetermined. And by that, I don't mean fake fights. I don't mean fixed fights. I mean fights where the odds are so stacked in his favor that, of course, he's going to win. And, of course, we see this. The latest match that's going to go down November 14th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Jake Paul is taking on, you've seen it by now, Gervonta Tank Davis. A man that is a lightweight in boxing. Now, lightweight in MMA is 155 pounds. Lightweight in boxing, 135 pounds. Jake Paul, I think when he weighed in for Mike Tyson, was 227 pounds.
Official weight, 227.2 pounds.
That is, if I'm not mistaken, a 92-pound weight difference. Almost a 100-pound weight difference. It's insane. Let's say he comes in at 200 pounds. It's still a 65-pound weight advantage, which is absolutely ridiculous. How can you be out there claiming to want to fight the best people on the planet and then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you? That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, oh, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word, whoa, 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 stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers, yeah. But when you're a boxer that's 6'1", that's only had one loss on the record, of course, Tommy Fury, doesn't want to face him again. Picking on a guy that small would be laughable. It would be embarrassing, okay? It's straight up bully boy bullshit. Let's have a look at the reach. Well, Gervonta Davis's reach, 67, whereas Jake Paul has got a 76-inch reach. So he's got a 9-inch reach advantage. And of course, as I said, he's got at least a 65-pound weight advantage. It is ridiculous. Yes, sure, Gervonta Davis, great fighter, world champion, experienced boxer, great wins over people like Ryan Garcia, okay? Fantastic, tremendous skill, but Jake Paul's bigger and he hits way harder. I just don't understand why this fight is happening. I get it. A lot of people are going to tune in. A lot of people are going to tune in for the spectacle. They're going to see if David versus Goliath can really happen because this fight is David versus Goliath. Not Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. That would have been someone that's a bit smaller taking on Anthony Joshua. This is David versus Goliath. This, as Khabib would say,
this is number one bullshit.
I'm telling you right now, this is embarrassing. What are you doing? I always said, when I was on Jake Paul for taking on the likes of Nate Diaz and Mike Tyson and Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren. And Ben Askren, by the way, is making a great recovery. So Ben, keep fighting hard, brother. It's good to see your little videos and your updates. It looks like he's getting much more healthy and putting the weight back on, which is tremendous to see. But he was going out there taking on non-boxers. And he was going out there taking on Mike Tyson that's pushing 60 years old, for crying out loud. But at the same time, pretending to be like this badass motherfucker, sending me DMs talking. He offered me a contract a long time ago. And I was like, what are you doing? I'm a retired fighter and I've got one eye. Why would I want to fight you? I wouldn't lower myself to doing that. I know a lot of people do that. They do lower themselves, if you want to say that, because of the payday. Because Jake Paul is a big name. He is a social media sensation. He's a YouTube star. And now, of course, in the world of boxing, he's one of boxing's biggest stars because he puts on these spectacles like Paul versus Tyson, like Nate Diaz, because these are the fighters, these are the names that attract the eyes. Jake Paul is the B-side to almost every single one of his fights. When he fought Nate Diaz, people were tuning in for Nate Diaz. His last fight against Cesar Chavez Jr., apparently no one watched that fight. Apparently the pay-per-views were ridiculously low. So this one's going back to Netflix on November 14th, and it's an exhibition bout. Of course, it's an exhibition bout because no athletic commission in their right mind will sanction this fight. There's just no way you can make this a legitimate fight because of the size advantage. Typically, this would be very, very dangerous and someone could get really hurt. If Jake Paul was to swing as hard as he could and connect and wobble him and hit him many, many times and not knock him out with the bigger gloves and the concussion possibilities and the brain rattling around inside the head and Jake Paul just teeing off at him as hard as he could, it's dangerous. That's why fights like this can't get sanctioned. That's why this is a exhibition bout and not a real matchup. Now listen, they're both going to get paid tremendously. They're going to make a ton of money and a lot of people are going to tune in and watch it on Netflix. Fair play. Fair play if all you're trying to do is make money. But if you're trying to be considered as a respectable boxer, that's my issue here. Right? You can't have it both ways. You want to be an entertainer, fantastic. And of course, he has a huge following. He has a tremendous amount of fans. So people are tuning in and they're watching and they get behind him. That's all well and good. But at the same time, don't be talking like you're one of the best fighters on the planet. Don't be calling out the likes of Anthony Joshua. He claims that after he gets through Tank Davis, that he's still going to go on and fight Anthony Joshua. Bullshit. Not a chance. That will not happen. Why? Because it's clearly evident. He doesn't want to take on real challenges. If he wanted a real challenge, he's now finally ranked by the WBA. He's ranked at number 14, which I still find kind of laughable, but there it is. He's ranked number 14. When you look at the rankings, there's plenty of legitimate boxers you could call out. You could call out Chris Billiam Smith. English guy, got a record of 21-2, and he's sitting there ranked number 8 in the rankings, okay? That'd be a good matchup, and that'd be a significant jump up to number 8. And then all of a sudden, you might be talking about him getting a shot at the title down the line, 2 or 3 more fights. And if he was to do that, then I wouldn't say shit about it, okay? If he was to say, I want to take on the guy that gave me the one loss of my career, Tommy Fury, okay? I'd say great. 2 guys, similar size, similar age, similar experience, but he doesn't want to do that because he was beaten by him and he doesn't want to get beaten again. He goes up against Mike Tyson. That's an exhibition match, of course, again, because no bloody athletic commission would sanction it. And now this one takes the piss. I don't know how he can go out there and make statements like this because this is just so cringeworthy. It's terrible. Here's what he had to say. He said they're all going to watch it. And you know what I say to people is, if you don't like something, don't talk about it because you're just going to make it bigger. But at the end of the day, people are always going to have something to say about every single one of my fights. Yes, the second to last guy was 58 years old. This guy is extremely smaller than you. Way smaller. God knows how many weight categories it is. I'm not a boxing expert like I am with mixed martial arts, but it's a good few weight classes, okay? It's insane. Now, of course, he's likening it to Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, which did insane numbers, 4 million pay-per-view buys, something like that. But he said Conor wasn't a boxer and Conor didn't have a weight advantage. So Gervonta is taking a bigger risk than Floyd by fighting me, in my opinion, and it's a credit to Gervonta because of the weight difference. And that's what makes this a a good, even fight is his skills and his experience for being a top 10 pound for pound, and then my weight and height being an advantage. Well, which one is it? Because before you were one of the best boxers on the planet, before you were one of these guys that people need to take seriously, and he's coming for the belt and he's going to go down as the best pound for pound boxer on the planet. But now he's making excuses for fighting Gervonta Davis because he's so inexperienced and he's not a very good boxer. And that's kind of true. He does wing his punches and they are kind of sloppy, and he leaves a tremendous amount of openings that somebody like Tan Davis is going to capitalize on and take advantage of. However, size matters. There is a reason why they have weight classes. And just as a man, standing there, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm going to fight this guy. It was bad enough when he was taking on Mike Tyson. And all right, we saw the videos of Mike Tyson hitting pads and looking fresh and all the rest of it. And that thing was an entire farce, okay? And then we've got Jake Paul out there, by the way, saying that he's going to sue anybody that talks bad about his fights, that says that they're fixed fights. This isn't a fixed fight. It's not even a sanctioned bout, okay? I'm not saying the fight's fixed, okay? And to be fair, I've never said that any of his fights are fixed. I don't think the fights are fixed. I just think the opponents are chosen so wisely so that he can't lose. He's not taking chances. He's not taking on real, credible risks. As I say, I didn't want to make a video on this because I've on Jake Paul plenty of times, and I'm not trying to piss him off. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be nasty. And his dad's out there on podcasts and saying, Bisping's really mean to my son and all the rest of it, right? I'm not trying to do that. It's just that as a fighter myself, as someone that's spent my entire life fighting for a living, I've done mixed martial arts, I've done jiu-jitsu, I've done boxing, I've done mixed martial arts at the highest level, of course, and I've spent an entire life in this sport. When I see someone that's such a fake and making a mockery out of the game like this and turning it into an absolute joke and a spectacle, then I'm sorry, I've got to say something about it. I didn't do a video when he said he was going to fight Anthony Joshua. As I said before, I thought, you know what, if he would do that, then fair play, he'd have my respect. And he doesn't care about getting my respect. He wants the respect of people in the world. All you've got to do is look around. And a lot of people that are boxing pundits or combat sports pundits, they're all saying the same thing as me. This thing is an absolute goddamn joke.
Yeah, how can you take it seriously? You look at this weight difference. Come on, bro. Like, you know, it's a mismatch.
Listen, they're both going to make a ton of money, so fair play to them. Gervonta Davis certainly deserves it. And fair play to Jake Paul. He's harnessing and maximizing the earning potential of his audience. So for that, I guess he's being very smart. But in terms of an actual fight, in terms of taking on tough opponents, in terms of trying to further yourself in the career, it's like I've always said since day one. Jake Paul is not a fighter, he's a businessman. As a businessman, I'm sure business is booming and he's making a ton of money. But please, just cut the bullshit about being a real fighter, because never in my life have I taken on someone this small. Never in my life have I chosen to even get physical or have an altercation that's physical or even heated argument with someone this small. Dominic Cruz, for example, fought at 135 pounds. Do you know the amount of times I've wanted to strangle Dominic Cruz, but I couldn't, because he's half my size, and that would be straight up bully boy tactics. And me and Dominic Cruz, by the way, we have a great relationship. I think he's tremendous at what he does, and he's had an incredible career, and congrats on your retirement. But as I say, he's wound me up a few times, and I wanted to strangle him, but I couldn't, because he's just too small. And now this guy's going to go out there and, you know, not a sanctioned professional match, but it's still a boxing match, and things can still go wrong and people can still get hurt, but he's still going to talk like he's taking on a big risk. And as I said at the start, this is just embarrassing. It is humiliating. It is a mockery to the sport of boxing. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. Subscribe and ring the bell. Let me know in the comment section, who do you think this guy really should be fighting? Let me know what you think about this. And let me know if you think Gervonta Davis actually has a chance of winning. I guess there could be a path to victory. He could be light on his feet. He could dance around. He could get in and out. He could use the speed and pick him apart and all that type of jazz. But even if he was to do that, it's still a joke. It's still embarrassing. It's still absolutely laughable. I could go on all day. I've said enough. I'll leave it there. As I say, leave a comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you bloody soon. Bye-bye.